Okay, let's go. It's time for Be Picked. When you're ready to move from clicks to clients, learn to be picked.
Welcome to Be Picked, the podcast for professional service providers who are looking to grow their practice or build their practice. I'm your host, Andrew Kolsky. Today, we have a guest. Her name is Rhoda Israelov. She is the founder and owner of Say It For You Content Marketing. So, Rhoda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're very happy to have you today. Content marketing, obviously a very important thing for people these days to make sure that they express themselves and get themselves out there. So we're going to talk about what that means and what you do. But before we get into all that, let's learn a little bit about you. Who is Rhoda Israelov and how did she get into this business in the first place?
So Rhoda has been writing for some almost 40 years, but I am a retired certified financial planner. I'm now an emeritus, as they call it, an CFP emeritus. And during that career, I wrote a weekly advice column, Dear Rhoda, for the
Wonderful.
Indianapolis Business Journal, and then also for the daily newspaper, the Indianapolis Star. And just when I was retiring, blogging, according to the front page of Newsweek, was going to change our lives. And someone in a networking group said, Rhoda, you ought to become a blogger because you're used to taking complex subjects and making them understandable for lay readers. And so I began to blog, and my first client was a bankruptcy attorney, ironically. And I wrote 5,500 original blog posts for this bankruptcy attorney while I learned how to do this.
Oh my goodness, 5,500. That's a lot.
And then I acquired other clients and eventually 3 subcontracted writers. And I began to write about many subjects. And the fun of it for me has been the learning. So it is not in any one specialty. Quite the contrary. I like to write about different topics so I can learn and then learn how to present those so that other people can enjoy the information.
Wow, that's amazing. So, all right, so let me back up a little bit. So when you were doing certified financial planning work, blogging had not become a thing yet.
That's right. There was no such thing. We didn't work on computers, basically.
Right. Okay. So at that time, just so that we sort of create a timeline here, at that time, what was the most effective way for you in that profession to build a client base, to get your business running?
So the other piece of Rhoda, the other aspect of me, is a teacher. And so I have been a college tutor, a career mentor for college students. I've been a Hebrew language teacher in the early part of my career before I became a financial planner. And so I have always been a teacher. And my entire financial planning career was not based on cold calls, but it was based on teaching seminars. And so that became manifests in teaching through content writing.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Wonderful. So now, as you move forward to blogging, you're kind of doing the same thing, but just in a little bit of a different format.
Yes. I mean, content marketing can be now LinkedIn posts, it can be newsletters, it can be many things. But blogging is still a very, very good way for practitioners and business owners to develop a messaging that conveys 2 things. I'm a subject matter expert and I care. So if we can bring those two things to the forefront, it will be a success.
Right, right. And that's such an important part is that, and we say this on this show a lot. We talk about a couple things a lot because they're so important, which is number one, people who are looking to hire a professional service provider, they're interested in the feeling that they get. They want to know that that person cares about them, that that person understands them, and that person is working for their goal, not just somebody has a bunch of degrees. That doesn't mean anything to somebody unless they feel that they're being cared for.
So true. And unfortunately, the tendency in our age of new AI is to distance ourselves in the communication process from the human interaction. And so everything that I do is designed to push against that, to say, this is me talking to you.
Right, right. So now, today, in Say It For You in your business, you are writing blog articles for, is it only lawyers or who are your clients?
Okay, they could be vendors. So one of the big clients is a caterer
Oh,
who does a lot of charitable events and a lot of recipes and a lot of advice about what to serve when and how.
hmm,
So that is something that's different. We've done jewelers on how to understand what works in jewelry and how to understand quality in jewelry. So it could be vendors, but my favorite is to write for practitioners who might be a family lawyer. I am in the 11th year of writing a weekly blog post for an estate planning firm. So
wow.
so think about that. That's w 4 to 5 a month
Hmm.
for 11 and a half years.
That's great.
So and they're all original, so they're non-AI written,
Right,
um, not even now, and the copyright is assigned to the client.
right.
So it
And I
really
want to,
it's for them, it belongs to them, it's about them, and and it's them, being the subject matter expert who cares. That's the idea.
right, right. And I want to get into that a little bit more in a minute. But first, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. I want to kind of peel back the curtain here. If
Okay.
you've been writing for this particular situation for 11 years, one a week, don't you run out of ideas?
No, no. Be First of all, there are unifying themes, obviously, when it comes to estate planning, for example,
Hmm.
at different generations, different things that are happening in the world that um, this attorney firm is telling their clients and talking to them about it and inviting them to investigate and creating, for example, family conferences where the older generation can say why they're doing what they're doing.
Hmm.
There's always something new, and
So,
you know,
how do you, I'm just curious. I hear what you're saying and I agree with you. There's always something new to write about. But how do you, when you sit down to write, how do you come up with the idea? Do you talk with people first? Do you research? What do you do?
okay, so I read a lot of many different things. So sometimes I might get an idea from a liquor magazine as I'm walking out of the grocery store, and there's a magazine published by a company that's selling fine wines. And there's something in the way that they present that about family celebrations that I can then link to and talk about how that relates to estate planning, how that relates to catering, how that relates to whatever the topic is.
Hmm? Wow, wow. Okay. So this particular attorney that we're talking about, for example, how do they use your content? Is it on a website? Is it a newsletter? Where do they put it?
In this particular case, it is on the website of the law firm, and I want to mention that technically blogs have an advantage that other forms of communication do not, in that the content never dies. It is literally in the website's cache, if you will,
Right.
and the keyword phrasing is now building up equity.
Hmm.
So think about this, that 11 years ago, I used the words family estate planning or estate tax or whatever and that phrase has been repeated, all those months.
Many times.
And so it's building up SEO or search engine optimization.
Hmm.
Even though that was not the real intent here, but
Right.
but it nonetheless is a very important factor in communication.
Right. Right. And I love the way you described it because it fits right in with what we talk about here, which is so nowadays the new term is evergreen content because
Yeah.
it's always, valuable. And you described it as building this equity, which I mean, that's what we're all about here. That's why Be Picked exists, because we tell people there's three parts of marketing. There's buy it, borrow it, and build it. Buy it means you're paying for advertisements. Borrow it means you're getting referrals. You're borrowing someone else's credibility. You don't control either one of those. And then there's build it. And that's the one where you're building equity. You're over time getting known better. It's your content. People know you for that credibility. And now this is how you build and
Yes. And of course, in estate planning, to use one example, there is new stuff because there's changes in the law.
hmm.
There are Trump accounts to talk about that now
Right,
grandma might want to do a Trump account for their child. So there's
right.
there's always something in the news that's affecting what any one practitioner or vendor is doing.
Hmm.
New discoveries, new taste, different generational awarenesses.
Right. So, all right. So, you talked a little bit about copyright before, and I said we were going to come back to it. So I'm coming back to it. Um, why did the issue of copyright even come to mind? Why should someone care?
Okay. The When I have given, if you will, content that's been approved by the buyer,
Hmm.
they've helped me create it in a way out of conversations, and and they've approved it.
Hmm.
They need to be able to say, I'm not going to go down on my vacation to Florida and see that same article in the local community newspaper
Right.
because it's my stuff. It has my name on it that the client can reasonably say, this is my stuff. What I said, uh, I can come back and update it. I can print it. I can email it out to my clients. I can handle it as if it were mine because it is mine.
Right. Right. So your agreement with your clients is you write it, but they own the copyright.
Once they've approved it, so they have given, remember, especially in the case of an attorney, they have literally vetted it, approved it, corrected it sometimes, and then it gets published, either by their person or sometimes they give me the back end access and I publish it for them,
Got it. Got it.
on their website or on their blog site.
Perfect. Okay. So similar line to copyright issues. What about, I know a lot of attorneys that I speak with, they have two concerns. Number one is staying within the ethics rules of attorney advertising and client privacy. Tell us about how do you manage those things?
Okay, so let's talk about client privacy.
Okay.
So nothing that is ever published, approved or published, or I wouldn't even submit it, has any name on it or enough identifying uh, things to the story that a person would recognize. Oh, that's my neighbor that she's writing about. So while real life things come up, they can be the point of the story can be brought out, but we're not using enough detail so that there's any breach of confidence, either legally or just socially. That it's just not going to happen. Um, so that's the first part of your question. And what was
Hmm.
the other part?
The other was attorney advertising ethics. A lot of attorneys get very squirrely about that. They want to make sure they're staying within compliance.
So in content marketing is not about saying, I am wonderful. Buy from us because we're the best in our field. We have done this, we have done that. That's not effective. Nobody wants to show off.
Right.
So it is showing off without saying without showing off in a way. You're showing that you're an expert in your field because you're showing understanding. You're showing that you are alert to what's going on in the world, that
Hmm.
you know what's happening in the community. You understand why someone might have this concern, and you're allaying that concern. You're
Right.
helping that, but you're not showing off and saying, I am the best. I have been honored. I have this. That is not um, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah.
let's say that the attorney was given an honor by being elected. Just as an example, the attorney that I write for was the president of the Indiana Bar Association at one time. So it would be okay to say, as president of the Indiana Bar Association, I have learned that one concern is that young people are afraid that their parents will not share with them what's going on as they age. So do you see what I'm saying? So that's not saying I'm showing off. That's saying I learned this because I am the president of the bar.
Right.
So
Right. And that goes back to that sort of build it tier that I was talking about, which is in order to build credibility, people have to know you. They have to understand, you know, what other people are saying about you in terms of ratings and things online. You want to have ratings, but you also want to be working to establish your credibility. And that's a credibility thing. That's not a show off thing. Now, depending on how you present it, if you present it as a show off thing, yay for you, but you're going to be turning off potential clients.
yes, you also want to show awareness that you are aware of what's happening in the community, if that's what you want to do, or nationally, or even internationally, but how that affects what you do, how that's make you think. And many of the blogs that I write have links to sources of information so that there's true value to the reader right then. They've gotten some valuable resource material right there through the blog.
Right.
So
Right.
it's the person I'm representing is saying, I'm here to help. You don't have to buy from me right this minute. I'm here to tell you something useful.
Hmm. Yeah. You know, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking to myself, just to sort of make the point, um, I'm an attorney myself. And so, you know, in speaking with other attorneys throughout my career, this concept of people being very proud, and they should be proud of it, but proud of, I set precedent on such and such in this case. And that's great. And that's wonderful. And it's good work and good for you. But it doesn't mean much to the client. It means something from a credibility perspective. But the client who's looking for you, let's say bankruptcy, for example, the client, the way that they're going to find you and be interested in you is most likely today they're going to be looking online and they're going to say, oh my gosh, I might go bankrupt. Can I keep my house if I go bankrupt? That's what they're not looking for. Oh, let me find an attorney that set precedent in a case. Never going to happen. Nobody has ever typed that in for purposes of trying to hire a lawyer.
That's exactly right. So the whole idea of writing content is that you know your audience and you know what some of the questions are that are most frequently on their mind,
Hmm.
and you're speaking to those. I mean, that's the whole point, so that they'll want to come back if they don't pick up the phone and call you right this minute. But the other thing you mentioned, search. Um, you want people to find you as a source of information,
Correct.
even if they're not going to deal with you right then. So even if they met you, let's say at a local club, they didn't meet you through search at all. Now
Right.
that they've met you, they're going to look at your website. So sooner or later, they're going to visit your website. And there's something very powerful about seeing a recent date. I love when the blogs are actually dated on a website, because then you know this person is doing this right now. This is not something 10 years ago that they put on there.
Right. Right. And it's important to kind of think about it this way too. There's one thing about, let's go back to the person who thinks they might have to go bankrupt. There's one thing about them going and doing just random searches on the internet and then randomly coming across things and looking at someone's website or whatever. But there's another thing about when they're starting to do the research, they're probably, reading websites, they're going to YouTube, they're looking at different resources. And what they do with effective people who have built credibility, they start to see this same person or the same firm over and over and over again. They read all their materials. So by time they make a decision to go reach out to hire someone, they've already hired you in the back of their mind
Yes.
versus them pulling up a bunch of random law firms that do bankruptcy and trying to figure out who I'm going to hire. Um, you're much better off being the one who's been hired before they look for you.
In a way, AI has improved your chances, because when you Google something, people would always, we talked about Googling something. Um, you can't avoid seeing an AI summary. But next to that, they're saying where they got that information.
Right.
So
Right.
the AI summary says, we'll give you 5, 10 articles, and you want your article to be one of them. And if you
Exactly.
the time or write articles all the time, you will be one of those. So in a way, this has amplified the possible effects.
Right. Right. And you're spot on there because Google search engines, this is where you hear all about search engine optimization. They look for keywords, but AI, the industry hasn't come up with a name for it yet, but the name I see more often that I like to use is answer engine optimization. And AI is looking for content where you are providing answerable bits of information to a question that clients have. So if someone says, can I keep my house in bankruptcy? They're going to get a very particular result from an AI search if you have provided the information that way. Very
Yes,
different from a Google search for SEO.
yes. So in a way, that's improved and helped what I do. Um, and it would be a mistake to imagine that it's going to replace what I do.
Right. Right. Well, let me ask you another piece now. So we've talked about blogs a lot, and those are important and great in general, but they also are good for people who are trying to reach a consumer as well as businesses, but a
Yeah.
consumer too. Versus let's talk about LinkedIn for a minute. So LinkedIn is typically a professional platform where it's business to business, those types of things, as opposed to reaching out to consumers. You work with LinkedIn as well, right?
Good.
What type of things do you do for LinkedIn, and how might they be similar or different from the blogs that you do?
Okay. Um, First, I'll tell you how I use LinkedIn for me, and then I'll tell you how I use it for some clients.
Okay.
So, me, every time I write a blog post on my own website, that gets posted also on LinkedIn. So
Wonderful.
I 2 a week. So you're gonna find 2 articles a week, and then once a month, I write what I call a content Q-tip, which
Mm,
is Q spelled C-U-E, Q-tip, about content marketing. And those are longer pieces. Those might be 400 or 500 words in an article.
mhm.
So, in other words, I'm relying on people friending me and getting me on their lists and seeing my posts.
Right.
When I'm doing that for someone's LinkedIn, I'm doing that for someone else. The articles need to be more meaty than just little Facebook posts. You know,
Right.
it's not going to be just like a 60-second video. It's going to be something serious, just like a blog would be, um, that they can then choose to boost to their whole list. But those who are going to see it are their people who are already connected with them.
Right.
So that
Right.
is a service that I do.
Great. Yeah, it's real important exactly the way you're doing it, because if you're going to put all the energy and effort into developing a piece of content, to be able to use it in the right ways, instead of just one and done, you get more coverage, you get more exposure, um, but it hits the audiences a little bit differently so that you're capturing more exposure.
Yes, I haven't mentioned that there's another use for blog posts or LinkedIn posts that are written, in that your own clients or your own customers, whatever business you're in, come up with their own questions in the course of doing business with you or situations. And you
Mhm.
can then email them that particular post or article and say, "This, I thought you need to read this." So you're directly sending them a link, or actually the whole article, however you choose to do it, to read this thing that's specifically for them because they asked this question or this came up in the visit.
Right.
So
Yep.
it's another way of helping them and promoting you at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So, we talked about um, blogs, we talked about LinkedIn, we talked about how you're using materials. Would we ever see your content on um, TikTok or Instagram or Facebook?
Um, Facebook, yes, but I use Facebook much less.
Okay.
So, I do have a Facebook account, and I use it for my personal also, family celebrations, different things that I interact. But blogging and LinkedIn are the two ways that I interact with my business. But the other way that we haven't talked about that I do for clients is trade journal articles.
Mm,
In one case, there was a data analyst, and this is something that totally unfamiliar, just found a way. to help this gentleman write up an article so that it got published in 2 different trade journals and got a big account because of it. So,
Wonderful.
he knew which trade journals they needed to be submitted to. We wouldn't have not have known that. My writer and I that worked on this would not have known that, but we were able to present it in such a way that it was interesting to the reader, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
a other piece of the business.
And I bet, I don't know if this has happened or if you know if it's happened, but I bet that your clients, once they have the article and the content that you've written, if they want to go and give a talk at a chamber of commerce,
Oh, definitely.
religious institution, a group of people, for a luncheon, they've already got the material there and they can use that for their talk.
Yes. I mean, they have the material in their heads, but they
Right.
haven't been in the habit of organizing it in such a way that it helps market them.
Right. Well, Rhoda, we are at our time here. This time always flies by when we're in these conversations because there's so much that is important and that we want to talk about. Um, Let me ask you, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do it?
Okay, so email is Rhoda, my name, at sayitforyou.net.
Okay. And
Yeah,
Rhoda is spelled Rhoda.
correct. And say it for you is all spelled out just the way what we do. We say it
Mm-hmm.
for you.net.
Great, great. And then I guess that's your website too, is sayitforyou.net.
Correct.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to share your insights with us. It'd be interesting one day if you had a total count of the number of articles that you've written since you began this, because I can only imagine.
It's in the tens
Um,
of thousands, literally.
I'm sure if you started with the 5,500 before you even got going. Wow. All right. Well, so let me remind everybody who's listening, picked.com. You can go there. You can see this and all of our other podcasts. We've got a blog as well related to the content that we share with you. You can find me on LinkedIn at Andrew E. Kolsky, and happy to connect with you. And, we use clips of these shows on LinkedIn as well to take some of the salient points and quickly share it with people who maybe don't have time at the moment to watch a half-hour episode. So we look forward to seeing you at bpick.com. If you like what Rhoda has to say and you think she can help you, please contact her. And we look forward to seeing you on a future episode of the Be Picked podcast.
Thank you.
If you are enjoying this content, please like and subscribe. Thank you.